Hello and welcome back to another emergency session of the Coptic Cave Iran edition. With me today, I have a unique guest. Not only is he an artist, a rapper, and an outspoken voice for Iranian freedom, he also happens to be a friend of mine, a friend from way back who knew me even in my pro-Pali days. Shaheen has been advocating for Iranian freedom well before the protests that we see going on today, well before the Mahsa Amini protests. He is among the fiercest advocates for Iranian freedom. And today is all about amplifying the voices of Iranians living under repression. This conversation is about what Iranians are asking for, what the world continues to misunderstand about Iran, the IRGC, and why Iranian voices, especially artists and dissidents, must be heard clearly, consistently, and without delay. Shaheen, thank you so much for being with me, bro.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Man, well, without further ado, man, let's get right into it. My first question right off the bat is, what are Iranians asking for right now?
They're asking for the obliteration of the Islamic Republic, right? So, I know you know this, but the Islamic Republic is an entity that does not represent Iranians. They are very anti-Iranian in its nature. We consider it an occupation. So what we're asking for is for people like Khamenei and that ideology of the Islamic Republic to just get the fuck out of our country and replace it with something that is more closely aligned with our culture and our identity, which at this time is in my opinion, and it looks like a lot of people in Iran agree, because he's the only name that I hear out there is Reza Pahlavi, right? So that's what they're asking for: the removal of the Islamic Republic, not just one man, right? Not just Khamenei. We don't want what the entire system needs to be abolished. We're not looking for a reform. We want that system to be eradicated and then have it replaced by a completely new republic.
All right, well, that answers the first question I had as a follow-up. So this is not about reform. This is about the end of the Islamic Republic, a complete overthrow of the system that has repressed Iranians for nearly 50 years. My next question to you, in line with that, is what are the non-negotiables for Iranians inside Iran?
I would say, again, like we don't want to reform, right? So, for example, like we don't want, let's say Khamenei gets taken out, but then instead that he gets replaced by another supreme leader, right? We don't want that. We're not looking for a light version of the Islamic Republic, right? So to me, getting rid of the Islamic Republic as an entire system, that is a non-negotiable. Like, I don't think the Iranian people will accept anything less than that, right? We want a system that allows freedom of speech, freedom of cultural and artistic expression. Women want equal rights, so no more getting thrown in a van by the morality police for not putting a scarf on your head. We honestly just want to have normal lives, man. You know what I mean? And I feel like the last 47 years, it's been anything but normal.
And how unified are these demands across generations and the
Yeah.
diaspora?
There's always been in our diaspora, especially, I can speak more for the diaspora than the people on the ground in Iran, because I was born and raised in the diaspora. I've been to Iran a few times in my life, but there in the past there have been divisions. There are some people who will say they want to restore Pahlavi back in power. There have been people who say, oh, well, you want more of a liberal democracy that's not really a monarchy. We had like a whole range of opinions. I would say right now, what I yesterday, so I think you saw the whole U-Haul incident. I think there have been some people in the diaspora that I think might cause a little bit division, and I don't think that's necessary. But for the most part, I would say we're pretty unified. We're just so sick and tired of these mullahs at this point. So me personally, like I'm very proud to get behind Reza Pahlavi. I view him as the leader of this opposition, and I'll go as far to say this, like. I didn't say that in the past. Like I was one of those people that was like, you know what, we need more of like this liberal, like democracy, and the crazy thing is too, like Reza Pahlavi himself is he's an advocate for democracy. He says he's a transitionary leader and he doesn't want to be king. So I think we're more unified than people think.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I was really in in such admiration of the unity at the protest, man. And you'd sort of have to be, you know, blind and deaf to not acknowledge the obvious, which is that the one name that is being chanted is Javid Shah. And it's interesting, like before I got on this interview with you, man, I was rewatching some of your music videos. Of course, Atusa is one that I love to this day, but then the other one, man, Davari, which it starts off with the late Shah, you know, it's so well made. I have to say,
Artish, yeah.
yeah, I have to say right off the bat, man, if for any of you who are not familiar with Shaheen's work, it is beautiful, man. It is
Thank you.
absolutely
That
beautiful,
means a
and it
lot,
is
man.
well
Thank you.
made too. Um,
Thank you.
not to get too not to derail the conversation too much, I got to give you your flowers right there. But so that brings me to my next question, actually. What does the world need to understand about Iran and the IRGC right now? I always try to, I do my best
Yeah.
to create a clear distinction between Iran and the IRGC. I
Yeah.
try very hard to,
Yeah. I
make sure
appreciate you
those
doing
terms
that.
are not interchangeable.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's actually what I wanted to get at is that I feel like Iran is the only country in the world, right? Like that is completely disassociated with where the government and the people are so far they're so out of touch with the people, right? It's it's so far out of touch that Iranians view it as an occupation. This is an anti-Iranian regime. Khomeini hates Iranian culture. He hates it like that, and he even said, like when he came to power, there's literally video clips of him saying shit like, who cares about Persian culture? Who cares about Persian Iranian history? It's all about Islam. Islam this, Islam that. And when he first came to power, he was actually trying to ban Persian traditions. Like he was trying to get rid of Nowruz, for example. He was trying to. I know he was trying to knock down Persepolis, right, like the ancient ruins. In Farsi we say Takht Jamshid, right? He was trying to get rid of that. He was trying to destroy and knock down the tomb of Cyrus. This is a guy that,
Wow.
yeah, and this is what I value. What I love so much about the Iranian people is that as evil as they are, they came up and they stopped that from happening. They were, the people came, they were ready to destroy the tomb, and then they were the people were throwing rocks at them. They were, get the fuck out. You don't touch our Cyrus, right? And that's something I've always admired about our people, and you see it today. I mean, like, look, I mean, they're like the TV's on, their CNN is on right now, and I'm actually surprised they're talking about Iran, but they're fighting. Like they're so patriotic. They love their land so much. Um, they're willing to die for it. But I think like what I want the world to know is that Iran isn't what you think it is. Um, and what I struggle. Oh, so I guess the reason. So okay, so um, I'm someone who's like very like, I consider myself to be like a progressive liberal, right? Um, in terms of the American political system, like I very much lean towards the left when it comes to that. So something that shocks me is when I'm seeing people who are on the far left support the Islamic Republic and then accuse protesters of being paid by Mossad and the Zionist shit. And it's so disgusting. Like, fuck you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like, I. What's crazy to me is that the Iranian movement, this movement to take back Iran, is a very progressive movement. Like, the way I see it is like what the Islamic Republic is like, imagine if like the very far right of the MAGA base teamed up with like the very far left pro-Palestine people, and then they formed a country. That's what like the Islamic Republic is. You get me? It's
That's
like
actually a really good way of explaining it.
it's like the very far right wing teaming up with like the very far left wing. I think it's the horseshoe theory, and then that's what they've been that's what they've been living under, and it's crazy because I see a lot of parallels in the U.S. Like it's I feel like we're unfortunately going in that direction, but I want the left to understand specifically that this is not a like the Iranian people are taking their country back from an occupation. This is something that should appeal to you, right? Like Iranians have been colonized by a foreign ideology. Like, you know what I mean? And I know it's not politically correct to say, and I love you, bro. I know,
Hey, hey,
because
feel free to say whatever you
you're,
want. Feel
you're,
free
you
to
know what I
say
mean? No,
whatever you want.
like, because you are Arab, right?
No,
And I
I
respect,
ditched that shit. I'm
really, yeah.
Coptic, bro. I'm done with that shit. That was listen, man, those were some dark days for me. I am Coptic. I'm trying to decolonize Egypt the same way that Iranians are trying to decolonize Iran. That,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. A lot's changed, brother. A lot's changed. So
Wow. Kudos to you, bro.
feel free,
Wow.
speak whatever you
Okay.
want to say, bro. Speak whatever you want to say.
So,
For the audience who doesn't know, Shaheen, m- Shaheen and I came to know each other when I was deeply embedded in pan-Arab ideology. Like, I embrace the Arab identity. So, him and I have only recently reconnected after a couple of years of having not spoken with each other. Well, maybe we'll get to that later, but yeah, like I embrace that Arab identity. And so that's why Shaheen is sort of like providing like a disclaimer right now to what he's about to say. But like, I just want the audience to know that like Shaheen has got it right on culture and identity.
wow, man, thank you. So beautiful. I mean, so you're Egyptian, so you understand. I mean, I would even argue Egyptians more than Iranians have been colonized by Arabs, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
That's, I mean, because Egyptians don't even speak this language that they were speaking 2,500 years ago. They speak Arabic now, right? I would say something I'm very proud of with like Persian. This is not a knock on Egyptians, but like something I'm very proud of with Iranians is like we kept that. We kept our language. We kept most of our traditions, but I would still argue that Iranians are still mentally colonized by Arabism. And what I mean by that is, why are we naming our kids after Arabs? Why are streets of Iran named after Arabs? Why are we going to I see and people are going to say I'm Islamophobic. I don't give a fuck, right?
I
Like,
don't give a
why are
fuck either.
why are Iranians flying to Mecca so Arabs can throw shit at them, right? And call us fire worshippers. You know what I mean? It's like,
Hmm.
how colonized do we have to be mentally to continue this path? So, part of what's happening today in Iran, and you see it because you have people are lighting mosques on fire because we view mosques as a symbol of oppression. Just how people here in America, like, the progressives, like understandably so, like maybe like certain churches are viewed as like symbols of oppression, right? Because a lot of these churches are trying to push their very far right wing conservative ideology onto us. And it's the same thing with the mullahs, right? So I want you to understand that, like, I guess, like, because back to your question, like, what do you want the world to know about Iran? Is that this is an indigenous movement of a country decolonizing itself from Arabism. And I know like that's not politically correct to say, because for some people colonization only means when white people do it. It's only bad when white people do it. I mean,
Hmm.
and it is bad when white people do it, don't get me wrong, but it's but they're not the only villains of the world, right? And I think sometimes like there are people on the left that only see it, there's like only one main villain in the world and everyone else is just a victim that is, and if they commit atrocities it's because, you know, it's justified because of how bad the white man is, you know. And I think that's not the right way to go about things.
Right, right. Listen, so, there's a Persian content creator. You know her. I know her. I've been looking at her comments recently on the stuff that she has posted about Iran, and the comments are pure cancer. Every comment from her far left following is, well, don't you think the timing is suspicious? Don't you think the timing is, motherfucker? Are you telling me the timing's been suspicious
Yeah.
for nearly 50 years?
Yeah.
Like, Iranians have
Ye-
been fighting for freedom and sacrificing their lives in the tens of
yeah.
thousands for nearly 50 years. Get the fuck out of here with this timing shit. Like,
Yeah.
the Iranians don't need the Mossad or the CIA to want their culture back.
Yeah. And that's another thing. It's like it's a misunderstood thing, right? It's like people think that Iranians want these people. We don't. We don't. Like they're not us. They're not one of us. You know what I mean? It's like they're occupying us. We don't want them. You know, even during the revolution, yeah, true. Like unfortunately, like people were fooled to push the Shah out, and that was very tragic. But those same people that did that had no idea that they were being conned, right? Like they had no idea they were being conned into like Khomeiniism and what was to come after, right? Like this is not Iranian culture. And it really pisses me off when fraud activists like Sean King, right? Like I'll see him on his Twitter and he'll, you know, and I used to respect Sean King back in the day. Cause again, like I'm still a progressive person, like, but it's like, so, but when you support the Islamic Republic, you're not progressive. You are not on the left. Like, yeah, I need people to understand that this is not a left wing government. Um, but yeah, it pisses me off when fraud activists like Sean King will like say, "Oh yeah, Iranians actually support the regime." Bro, fuck you. You lying sack of shit, you know?
Hmm.
I don't know who's paying that fucker, or I don't know, like I don't know what's in for him, what's in it for him. But yeah, he's a fraud, you know. So,
I'd say with most political collectives, there's sort of this Overton window that people have to cater to. And what I noticed between, the inside the left Islamist alliance is that there is a narrative that you have to pander to, otherwise you are not part of them. And I'll tell you, like, what's been sort of stunning for me to learn lately. I recently started reading The Fall of Heaven, which talks about, the late Shah, and I was amazed about how much I did not know about the Shah and how much misinformation, well, really disinformation, that I'd heard throughout my life about the Shah. Luckily, I had my dad who was in love with the Shah, so like I've always had pretty pro Shah views. But like really like the lies that have been told about the Shah, like, and for no other purpose than to smear his legacy, it's incredible how widespread these lies are. Where do you think this comes from? Do you think this is more from the Muslim side of things, the left side of things, or do you think it's a combined effort?
definitely think it's a combined effort. There's this very famous story, like a lot of Persians believe. When I say Persian, Iranian, I use it interchangeably. But like, there's a story where a lot of Iranians believe, and um, where we believe that these mullahs, right, were planted by the British. So for I don't know if you know about this story, but like, um, something I don't want to like say it wrong, but I think like one of the like a couple of the mullahs were like taking a shower or something, and like someone noticed that they weren't circumcised, right? And then so they presented them in front of like the Shah, and like the first, Reza Pahlavi, and he's like, "What the fuck do you mean?" And then he's like, "Oh, no, 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 I'm like, there's nothing to see here." And then the Pahlavi was like, "Okay, take it off." Like, "Oh, what the fuck are you talking about?" And then they find out that these people are from the UK, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and the idea is like they were planted in Iran to spread disinformation and keep Iranians stupid, right? You know what I mean? Like like the West did not want to have an Iran that is educated, right? They wanted the people to be low. And obviously, like the Pahlavi dynasty, they love their country, they love their history, like they were very patriotic people. They wanted the best for their people. So I think there was definitely an effort to um like destroy their reputation, and I mean, obviously, you had the left wing, the Tudeh party, and which were backed by Russia, and then you had forces that were backed by the U.S. and the UK. Um, yeah,
Yeah, there were people within the, I forget which presidential administration it was, but there were people who literally looked at Khomeini like he was Gandhi,
yeah.
like he was a saintly figure. And in a way, I can almost grant a little bit of leniency because people didn't know about Islam what they know now. Even though what they know now about Islam doesn't really seem to play much of a factor. Like it is not a progressive religion. And I'm not here to, hate on Muslims wholesale, but you'd be out of your mind to think that any sort of Islamic governance would lead to any sort of progressive, outcome. And it's crazy when you take into consideration that seemingly today, the best friends of Islamists tend to be progressives.
It's a weird oxymoron, right? It's
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why that happened is because I myself would be like would be like very like against Islamophobia, because me being an Iranian in the post 9/11 era, even though I'm not a Muslim person, I never was, but people in school still thought I was Muslim because I'm Iranian. You know what I mean? They just sort of lumped me in that. So in a way, subconsciously, I remember as a kid that I was like, I thought to myself, even though I'm not Muslim, I am Muslim.
Hmm.
Even, you know what I mean? And I feel
Yeah.
like because of that, I was very defensive when people were talking shit about Islam and Muslims, especially like these white kids at school. And so I was really about, oh, fuck Islamophobia, this, that. And I think if you're progressive, you spend so much time fighting against Islamophobia in the post 9/11 era that we forget to sort of um we're almost afraid to say that like Muslims can do any bad at all. And I think in general that's a problem like progressives have, not just with Muslims, but like any type of oppressed groups, is that no matter what, like they have to be the perfect victim all the time.
Hmm.
Like as if they're not capable of doing bad things. Um and I think that's very problematic. I think that's like very problematic. Like one time I made a rap video about there was this Palestinian woman that was talking shit about Iranian women.
I know who
So
you're
I
talking
kind of
about.
made like I made like a 1 minute, like, wasn't really, I wouldn't call it a diss, but like it was like I responded to her through a rap, right? Um, and then like I remember like this one person told me, and she was Iranian, which was a crazy, like super far left, like was trying to say, you're not a real hip hop person. A real hip hop person would never talk to a Palestinian like that, as if they're gods, that you're not allowed to like criticize what they can say. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like every time we want to stand up for an oppressed people, we make gods out of them. It's like, you know what I mean? Instead of presenting nuance. And I think that's our downfall, you know?
I mean, if victimhood were a church, the Palestinians would be like the baby Jesus, can do no wrong. And that girl that you're referring to, I know who she is, Salma Shawa. Um, she demands sympathy for the Palestinians, but she is not ready to give sympathy to anybody else. And she even spoke about the what happened at the Nova Festival in Israel on October 7th. And she said, I don't give a damn about that rave. We're talking about people who were just living their life. And you as an artist, this probably, feels very personal to you because this could easily be like a show of yours, right? Young people going to enjoy themselves, and all of a sudden they find themselves in the middle of gunfire, rape, atrocities,
Yeah,
bodily mutilation, and
yeah,
here she is saying, "I don't give a damn about that rave." I mean,
yeah.
it's just,
No, that
it's
is it's a
insane.
really no, that it's a retarded thing to say. And listen, I'm willing to. I don't have hate for that girl. I don't. Like there's a part of me, honestly, that even empathizes with her because I believe she has family in Gaza, from what I've heard, and I can imagine like the type of stress that she has to live under. You know what I mean? Not knowing, because listen, like my heart goes out to the innocent people in Palestine, right, that are caught in this crossfire. Um, you know what I mean? Like there are so many innocent children that are being killed because of this whole thing. Um, so I mean, I have empathy for her to an extent, but like I guess like what I didn't like was sort of like like I feel like, and I know like people are, oh, how many times you're gonna ask us to condemn Hamas? The reason why it's like a lot of these people think that these terrorist groups like Hamas or the Islamic Republic, they think that they're the answer to Western imperialism. I believe that Western imperialism is a thing. I'm not, you know what I mean? But the problem is like your solution to it is actually worse. And when you hype these guys up, you're making the entire world like make fun of you, and actually like it kind of makes people support Western imperialism even more, right? Because now every time someone actually might accurately suggest that America or another country might be involved in something they shouldn't be, now they're just going to be laughed at now. um the Islamic Republic, they're not a solution to Western imperialism. They are a consequence of it. The reason why I hate Western imperialism is because it creates a place where it creates sort of an environment where the Islamic Republic can grow, right?
Hmm. I
Yeah.
think, I personally think, and I've grown a lot since, when we last left off a few years ago. Um, I do think some things are a bit black and white. You know, um, as it relates to Israel and Gaza, um, there's something that is absolutely uncompromising about Islam. There is a verse in the Sunnah, the hadiths, and it's a authentic hadith, so it's one that at least 90% of the Muslim world, which is Sunni, follows. It is, the final hour will not come until the Muslims fight the Jews, and the Jews will hide behind the rocks and the trees, and the rocks and the trees will cry out, Muslim servant of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come kill them. This is something that unfortunately many Muslims are raised with, particularly the ones who were raised in Gaza under Hamas. And on October 7th, when they're yelling Allahu Akbar and they named their terror attack Operation Al Aqsa Flood, I can only imagine how many of these people thought that day was the final hour. So it goes beyond, anything about imperialism to me. It goes beyond,
Right.
anything really that the West has done, because if we look further and further into history, we can see that religious and ethnic minorities have been brutalized by Islam well before you know, Jews lived in mass in any of these areas in, what is the modern day nation state of Israel. But anyways, we're sort of losing track of the conversation. We definitely want to keep it focused on Iran and Iranian freedom. So my next question is, How deeply embedded is the IRGC in everyday Iranian life and the economy?
I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that, just because I'm not too familiar with the intricacies of that. I know they're very well embedded. I just don't know, like, to what extent. I mean,
Answer to the
I
best of your
understand.
ability. I know that their
Yeah.
politicians are fucking crooks.
Yeah, I think part of, like, for example, right, like the whole water system's run by the IRGC, and it's just so corrupt and mismanaged that now the country's running out of water, right? And from my understanding is that they don't really, like, it's so I believe, like, I don't want to say something that's incorrect here, but I do think, like, the government of Iran is, like, overly involved in things like that, like in like managing resources and stuff like that, to the point where it's like, and they don't, and they just, the people that are in control of those things, it's not because they're well equipped to do so. It's because, like, they're friends with the Besties, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they just throw anyone incompetent up there, and they're like, okay, like, you go run this. But how well embedded into, like, so that's like with the economy portion of it. Like, I'm not the best person to ask about that, honestly, but with the I mean, with everyday life, yeah. Yeah, man. You know what I mean? Like, you, obviously, if you're a woman, you have to go out looking a certain way. And
Hmm.
even if you dress right, you can still get fucked, right? Like, look at Massa Amini. She was, the crazy thing about Massa was, like, she was wearing her hijab. Like,
Hmm.
that's it's not that it was even all, like, she was wearing it, and they still arrested and killed her, right? So, like, yeah, like, to me, like, people have no like, personal agency over there. I know I have a story where my cousin, who's married to someone, they got pulled over, and they're like, "Where's your marriage certificate? Why are you sitting next to a woman? Are you guys married?" Yeah, like, like, when you get pulled
Yeah.
over and you have, like, yeah, let me see your license and registration and all that. It's like the same thing. It's like, where's your marriage certificate? You're not, because technically by law, like, you're not allowed to sit with another woman unless she's your sister or your mother or your wife.
Hmm.
Not even your cousin. Not even your cousin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
No. So
it's wild. It's wild. Um, yeah, I mean, people get arrested for dancing. You know what I mean? Because it's not Islamic enough. Um, it's a very miserable place. And the people that run the country are miserable, and they're making the people miserable.
now some people will, because we we have footage and pictures and video of what life was like before the IRGC, before Khomeini took over. Now, the typical sort of Islamist leftist response would be like, "Oh, well, this was only for the elites. The majority of people didn't live like this, and all this, sort of like just it's really anti-modern language, like it's anti-progressive language. What would you say to that? That this was only how the elites lived, which I don't think is true.
So,
If
no, it's not true. I mean, listen, there was income inequality just like there is in every
Sure,
country. Yeah,
sure,
absolutely.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But no, like, people, enjoyed freedom. You were allowed to wear what you wanted for the most part. You know what I mean? And people were dancing, like, the middle class, like, you know what I mean? Like, people were allowed to, like, have mehmoonies at their home, and like, just having these get-togethers, singing and dancing and stuff, uh just living normal lives. Like, I don't understand why that's so controversial. Like, why do these I don't understand, like, these leftists who, like, have a problem with these pictures. Like, what is your issue with it?
hmm
You get me? And I think part of it has to do with this toxic and racist idea of cultural relativism. And I'm sure you're familiar with
yes,
that, where they believe that, like, a lot of these far leftists believe that, well, living like you see like those pictures, right? Sometimes like the people will show those pictures and be like, "Oh, Iranians want to be white so bad." Like that, like I feel like they don't understand how racist that is
Right.
to say something like that. It's like, are you saying that only white people are capable of like being normal?
And the
Or
ironic
you
thing,
under
the ironic thing is like when Iranians talk about their desire for modernization and secularism and human rights and freedom, the thing that I
those
hear
are
the most
progressive
from
values.
yeah, the thing that I hear the most from you sort of, and this is very, very common amongst the Arab and Muslim diaspora, is like, oh, you just want to be like the West. You just want to be naked. You just want to be from. And it's like, first off,
Yeah,
the West actually took Iran's model. Iran was Cyrus the Great. He was the person who first introduced the Charter of Human Rights. So it's really the West that looked towards Iran's example.
exactly. And that's why I always hated the term westernization, right? Like a lot of people would say, "Oh, the Shah westernized Iran." No, 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 no. He Iranianized Iran. Like you have to see what Iran was like prior to the Pahlavi dynasty. You know what I mean? Like these Qajars looked like Arabs. The women looked like Arabs. They were dressed like Arabs. You know what I mean? And the Pahlavis hated that. And they're like, why? We were Persian. You know what I mean? Like, why are we living this way? Um, so I feel like, and I think like you said something really nice. It's like, like when you say like the West kind of took our model, it's like, no, Iranians don't want to be white. White people want to be Iranians, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so there is so much disinformation today about Iran. One of the things that people really seem to get wrong is they think that what the Shah did was only for Iran's elite, that it only benefited Iran's elite. But it was actually the Shah that expanded public education, expanded reforms. If I remember correctly, the Shah's father banned the hijab. And then it was actually the Shah.
For like 5 years. Yeah.
Oh, it was only for 5 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I was under the impression that he had banned hijab, and then Mohammad Reza Pahlavi came in and like l legalized it again or something, but maybe I have that wrong.
I don't
Um,
know the exact timeline, but like it wasn't like a permanent thing, you
okay,
know?
so
Yeah.
to what extent can the Shah, the late Shah, take credit for the things that the IRGC regime tries to take credit for today?
That's fascinating. Yeah, man. So I mean, like, there are a lot of women in Iran that are educated now, right? And the IR and the Islamic Republic will try to take credit for that, and it's fascinating. They're like, "Oh, look at all these women." Like, well, yeah, but that's because during the Shah's White Revolution, the Shah created those programs to allow that to happen, right? Um, so I don't know. Like, it's brilliant propaganda on the regime's part, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the Shah, if like anything good about Iran today, I give credit to the Shah. You know what I mean? Like he set it all up before he got kicked out. And then after he got kicked out, some of those flowers grew and then the regime is taking credit for it.
Yeah, it's incredible, and but you're right. It's like really like you have to give them some credit. They really launched a brilliant, cunning disinformation campaign
They're
against the
very good at
Shah's
propaganda.
legacy.
They are very good at propaganda, yeah.
Now, on to my third question, and this is, can be a very broad question, or it can be a very sorry. This can open up to a very broad answer or a narrow answer. What are Iranians asking the international community to do and not do?
People to notice us. And I want people to see what we're going through. Um I think we're tired of being misrepresented. I think we want people to see what kind of pain we're in. Um we're not necessarily asking to be like bombed to freedom. Some of us are wanting military intervention because when you have a regime that doesn't play fair, right? I mean, like, me and you've been to a protest yesterday. Like, imagine if all of a sudden these cops came out with AK-47s pointing and shooting at us just for like protesting. Can you imagine that? Like, So I feel like sometimes, like when we ask for military intervention, it's like, well, what can we do? We can't win a war like that with rocks,
Right.
and slogans. But we Iranians want to be free, and we want to contribute positively to the world. We want people to see what kind of a culture we have. We're very friendly people. Have you ever seen those food vloggers that like go to Iran? And I think the one I really liked, his name was I think his name was like Mark Weens or something like that. Uh he's like
I'm not
half
familiar with her.
Chinese. Yeah, he like went to Iran, and he showed, and shout out to him because, and Anthony Bourdain too.
Hmm.
Like they showed like so much respect to our people and our culture. And if you like ever watch those documentaries, like the people were so kind to them. They were so loving and they had great hospitality. And part of the reason why, I mean, we are like that in general, but another reason, but part of that is also because we're so ashamed of how this regime makes us look. Like we're out here trying to tell you, look, like we are very good, very kind, very welcoming people, like, and we are.
Absolutely.
If you ever hang out with a Persian or Iranian person in the diaspora and you're not Persian, I guarantee, every time I met a non-Persian person, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Iranian, something they'll always tell me is like, oh, I know this one Iranian person. They're so nice. They always feed me when I come home to their house. Like they're so welcoming. Like, oh my God, like they're the kindest people I know, right? Because we are, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just we're represented by these baboon donkey fucking mullahs. Um, and we're embarrassed by it. And it breaks my heart, man. It breaks my heart. I remember when I went to Shiraz 10 years ago. I can't believe it's been 10 years. And I remember I went to Persepolis for the first time, the only time. Hopefully one day I'll go again. But I went there, and I remember this random guy, I think his name was Milad, just like came up to me and gave me a hug because he thought I was American, right? I mean, I am American, but
Right.
he
Right.
didn't know I was
Yeah.
Iranian, right? But
Yeah.
he was so kind. I'll never forget that. He took a selfie with me. Um,
He thought you
never
were
saw him
Safid.
again.
He thought you were
Yeah,
Safid.
he thought I was a white man, and he was so kind though, and then I said, Dadash, I'm Iranian. I said, like, I'm Iranian, and he was like, oh no way, and I'll never forget that. I hope he's doing good. I hope he's doing good. And then like I was hanging out with like an Iranian bus tour, group of people, and like they were so cool, they were so nice, and they loved their country. Like they were, even though they lived in Iran, like they were seeing Shiraz for the first time, and like they were so excited about it. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it was just really like wholesome, and what broke my heart, I remember the very last thing they took us to was like this mosque, and it was I think it was like Imam Rizzo's brother or something like that, and it happened to be on the anniversary of his death, I think. So we go into the back, and next thing you know, I see a bunch of like these mullah monkeys holding like burning American flags, saying "Death to America, Death to Israel," and spewing a bunch of like far right wing Islamist bullshit, right?
Hmm.
Um, and bro, like my heart broke because I was thinking about every good person that I interacted with during that trip. And, we went back on the bus and they were still smiling because, like, they're like, fuck these guys, whatever, but they were still kind even after that. And I remember I was on the bus and I just like started crying, I mean, I was trying, like, people, hoping people don't see me or whatever, but I was just like, yo, that is not fair. That is not fair that these beautiful people around me are getting misrepresented by these monkeys.
Yeah.
And I should stop calling them monkeys because I think monkeys are better than these mullahs, but it's not fair to monkeys. But uh yeah, it broke my heart. And ever since then, when I came back to America, a lot of my artistry just kind of shifted to uh my Persian identity.
What does meaningful pressure really look like from government, media, and platforms? I mean, I'll actually I'll actually revise that question because you did bring up, foreign intervention. And what a lot of people don't really understand is there is already foreign intervention. The regime relies primarily on outside power bases. So they're mercenaries from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Lebanon, Iraq, and these are among the most fanatic Shia that you can find. Like they shoot to kill anytime that there's an uprising in Iran. So for the people who, are against this idea of foreign intervention, and I don't hear any Iranian that's saying they want their country occupied, but they do want meaningful
It
action.
already is occupied.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. Um, so what I was saying is so yeah, that using that as sort of a pretext, what does meaningful pressure look like from government media and the media?
In my opinion, it's you have to stop legitimizing them as a government. Stop viewing them as like this legit form of government. I want the world to understand that this is an occupation, and I want Western politicians to treat it as such, which means no negotiations ever, ever. We didn't negotiate with ISIS.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
like the Islamic Republic is Shia ISIS. So like why are we treating them as if they're worthy to sit across the table and come up with a deal? You know what I mean? Like there should be no negotiations with them. That's so that when I say pressure, there's I mean what Trump did today is like he's putting a 25% tariff on anyone that does business with Iran. I never thought I'd say this, but I think Trump did the right thing. Wow, I can't believe I said that. But you know what I mean? Like, I think Trump did I think with that regard, that was a good move. Because like why are we doing business with these people, right? um these are animals. These are not these are not, we do not view them as like our government. That's the thing. So it's not enough to go on Twitter and say we stand with the Iranian people, right? And then behind closed doors you try to make a deal with them, right? And as liberal as I am, like it's something that I look back and I think that was one of Obama's biggest failures, right? And I remember back then at the time I naively supported the nuclear deal, just because I didn't want war with the country,
Hmm.
but now obviously times have changed. I realized like that deal was a disaster. And yeah, I think so. Like, did I answer your question about like what I think? I just want like,
Yeah, yeah, that
yeah,
definitely answered.
like
That was
no deals, no sitting at the table. I think it's so fucked up that the United Nations made Iran as like one of the heads of women's
women's
rights and
rights.
some. That is insane. Like, what kind of like simulation are we living in?
Yeah, I mean, but you're an artist, and a very talented one at that.
Thank you.
Like,
That means a lot, man. Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's no secret that your culture, your identity, and the Iranian people's fight for freedom uh, plays a huge role in your art. How often do you hear from, Iranians living back home that your art has inspired them, that they listen to you? How often do you hear that kind of feedback?
Recently, I've been hearing it more often than before.
Hmm.
And it's so wholesome, man. Like I speak to people there pretty often, and they tell me that they're just so touched, that people who are living in the US and in Europe are thinking about them and are advocating for them. And I think in the past a lot of Iranians that lived in Iran thought that the diaspora forgot about them. That, oh, we're living our dandy lives out here. Who cares what's going on in Iran, right? But that's not true. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and I obviously like it means a lot. It means honestly, I feel like I get I feel like I get more of a dopamine high when like people in Iran tell me what my work does for them more than people out here. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Um, a couple months ago, I released my tribute to Masa Amini, and I put that out on the anniversary of her death, and one of the videos did very well, and I think it's sitting at like 500,000 views right now, right? And making music about non-Iranian things, and maybe as a career move that might be better. And and I know not all my music will necessarily be about Iranian stuff, but I will tell you this, like, this is so fulfilling. You know what I mean? Like, making art for Iranians is very fulfilling to me.
It has to be, man. I mean, given something as heavy as, the brutal murder of Mahsamini, to get that feedback from Iranian women in Iran that appreciate your work, I can't imagine what that feels like. Um, what would the ramifications of a free Iran be, culturally for Iranians? We'll get to politically and regionally in a second, but culturally, what would that mean for Iran? Because Iranians are very talented, open people that have a culture that stretches back thousands and thousands of years. What do you think a free Iran would do for, the that aspiring Iranian artist who wants to break free of this shitty regime?
Yeah, man. Well, one, for the very, very obvious, right? Like, Iranians will be free and they can live the lives they want and they can pursue what they want and they can have hope again. I know people in Iran that have engineering degrees, master's degrees, PhDs in engineering, and they cannot find shit to do. They cannot make money. They don't have work, and I think, like, with a free Iran and, we can hope again. We can have lives. People in Iran, like, they don't even have hope for the future anymore. I mean, now they're taking their country back, but so many people in Iran, like, the reason why so many people are leaving the country is because they want hope. So I think, like, having untying their hands and giving them opportunities to do something will be huge for the world because we're so talented,
Hmm.
right? Um, the CEO, the guy who started Uber was Iranian. The guy who started eBay was Iranian. Like, we are one of the most, like, entrepreneurial people that exist, but we're not allowed. But what's sad is that we take our talents and we're here. We have to bring them to Europe. We have to bring it to Canada and the US. You know what I mean? But we can't do anything good for our own country. And I think, like, a free Iran at the very least will give us at least an opportunity to be a respectable country. During the Pahlavis era, we were on our way there, and the tragic part is, and the Shah said it in one of his after he was exiled, is that what breaks his heart is that if we wait just a few more years, we would have been a superpower,
Hmm.
right? Like, and now look at what do we have now? Um, Absolutely nothing, right? I mean, we still have our culture, but they're trying to take that away from us too. you know and obviously, like, I think regionally, right, like, you have the government of Iran funding Hamas, Hezbollah, all these Shia dog shit groups. So obviously, when you get rid of the Islamic Republic and replace it with Reza Pahlavi, you're not going to have that anymore. You're not going to have that much instability there anymore. I'm not saying the Middle East was perfect during the Shah's time, but it's hell of a lot better than it is today,
Hmm.
Um,
Without
and
a
yeah,
doubt. Without a doubt, man. I mean, listen, a testament to just how, you know, industrious and ingenious Iranians are is, despite the sanctions, which do hurt. We're not going to act like they don't hurt, but obviously the primary cause of Iranian suffering is the regime. The sanctions are sort of, a side effect of what
right,
the regime has brought
right.
upon itself. But despite the sanctions, they still work incredibly hard. Like Iran, despite the sanctions, is more advanced than Egypt, which doesn't have any sanctions on it. And I'm Egyptian, and I'm saying that. I'm just being real about Egypt's situation vis-a-vis Iran. and Iran unfortunately suffers from one of the worst cases of brain drain. Like you said, Iran's best and brightest have to take their talents to the USA, Europe, Canada, Australia, elsewhere. And it's sad because, like you said, Iran would have been a superpower had it not been for, the Ayatollahs. Um, this is where, getting close to winding down the interview. I got two more questions. You know, I know this is a difficult time for you and every other Iranian Shaheen when you're seeing your people fighting for freedom and they're being killed in the process. What do you need most from friends and allies?
mean, the same way you rightfully so stood up for Black Lives Matter, be your voice. The same way you guys did what you guys did for Palestine, right? Whether you agree, whether I agree with it or not, that same energy you put into Palestine, you know, give us a fraction of that, you know,
Yeah.
talk to your Iranian friends, ask them, try to inform you. It's like, try to be informed, share stuff on your story. You know what I mean? Um, post, because like, again, I know that's cringy, but like, I mean, that's what happened with like, Palestine, right? It was post. And
All eyes on
I
Gaza.
want all eyes on Gaza. So listen, like, I want the same outrage over Palestine to, I think Iran deserves that too. I think the people of Iran deserve that.
And honestly, if you genuinely care about the Palestinians and not this, sort of like weird, cynical, you know, way of caring about them where it's just you don't really care about Palestinians, just really hate Israelis. If you genuinely care about Palestinians, you will acknowledge how much the IRGC has not only hurt Iranians, but everybody else in the neighboring countries. Like to a great extent, you can argue that, what happened in Gaza on October 7th and the war that followed is a lot of the IRGC's doing.
100%. 100%. I mean, I was, what pissed me off is like, oh, like, then you had these like retard leftists that were like, oh, like, yeah, this is like, this is what resistance looks like. Like, yo, like, you have no idea, unfortunately, like, what's about to happen to Gaza because of this. Way to go.
Nice
Because
job.
now yeah, like this, and I blamed it. I remember like the day that happened on October 7th, I was like, this is all because of Islamism, right? Islamists, and now Palestinians are going to be a victim of whatever happens next because of what just happened. So yeah, I blame the Islamic Republic for funding these fools. You know, obviously fuck Hamas for what they did on October 7th. I don't, I'm not. I don't really like the way Netanyahu went about it. I think more people died than they needed to, right? But yeah. So I don't know. That's why I think, like, you get rid of the Islamic Republic, the Middle East will look a lot different.
100%, 100%. It's a tragedy that anybody innocent had to die in the process, but it's unfortunately a consequence of people who care more about taking hostages and, you know, hiding them while they subject their people to, the bombardment above ground, not like building a single bomb shelter for them. They cared
Yeah.
more about killing Israelis than they cared about protecting their own people. Um, and my final question to you, Shaheen, if you could speak right now directly to your people in Iran, what would you tell them?
I will tell them that I stand with you and I'm with you through the end, and I support whatever decision you make, whoever you pick as your leader. However long you decide to go out into the streets, I support your decision either way. You guys are doing the hard part. You guys are putting your lives on the line. I wish I just had a fraction of how I wish I had a fraction of that bravery in me. right? So I want you to understand like how proud I am of you and how honored I am to have the same bloodline as you. Um, you know what I mean? Like I think after you guys take your country back, like it's gonna be. I mean, it's already cool telling the world I'm Iranian. I've always been proud to tell people I'm Iranian, but now it's like if you guys pull this off. You know, I get to rep so proudly, be like, "Yo, we did that, motherfucker." You know, so um, I think despite how many idiots are out there saying stupid things online, you are not alone, and we stand with you.
Absolutely. And, you can speak to this too, man. It means so much to Iranians when they hear others, speak up and, amplify their voices. Like I get humbled by the messages and comments that I get like every day. Like, and it just shows you that sort of like the disparity between how much attention is given to the Iranian fight for freedom and how much attention has been given to other causes. And it's humbling, it's
Because there's
sad
a
at the same time.
it's a weird left wing glitch, right? Like a progressive glitch. And I say this as someone who's liberal and progressive. Like I've noticed that like the progressive brain gets activated more when they see injustice and oppression through the lens of identity politics. Uh so they don't if you were to say that like this country has a tyrannical government that denies human rights to its citizens, they might say, yeah, that's fucked up. They don't like that. But if you were to say that in this country, this racial group is more privileged and has more social power than this other ethnic or racial group, that's what progressives seem to like get all up in arms about, right? And I think it's kind of foolish, right? Because there are racial injustices that happen. And there are, and like, like there are inequalities in every country, but there's also just overall tyranny
Hmm.
that affects everybody. And that should be a progressive thing. Freedom of speech is progressive. Secularism is progressive. Women's rights is progressive. Why is Glenn Beck, why is, of all fucking people, Glenn Beck changing his Twitter profile to the sheer horse she, but it took Democrats like 2 weeks to say something?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, now you
crazy.
see, that's weird. Weird. Like, I mean, now I see AOC finally saying something, and I'm glad she did. I'm glad she did. And, Governor Newsom, he recently said something about us, and I'm grateful. Truly, I think we need more progressive people to talk about this. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I completely agree. It's feels like the world's upside down, bro. That's what it feels like. Anyway, guys, that has been it for today's episode. I will be amplifying Iranian voices for the foreseeable future. So, till next time, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Shaheen, it was an honor to have you on, bro.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me, bro.
so much for making time for the podcast, and we'll have you on again.
Fuck
Sooner
yeah.
rather than later, man. I really enjoyed having
Hell
you
yeah.
on.
This
All
was
right,
fun.
all right, folks. Take care. We're out. Free Iran, Iran Azad.
Javi Shah.
Javid Shah.